Greetings brothers, today we're looking at an army winning list, the Battle of Bush 2021, and it's Blood Angels obviously, so stick around, I hope you enjoy this. If we're just meeting, I'm John, the Blood Angels Commander. Every week on this channel we do a ton of different Blood Angels content, so please consider subscribing. So Josh McMillan just won the Battle of the Bush tournament in January 2021 with this list. So we're going to look at the detachment, then we'll look at the various strategies, strengths and weaknesses, and then finally, similar to what we do on the Sunday live show every week, we will score the list out of 50 and highlight a couple of final key points. So we do start with a battalion detachment, and we have 2 HQ and 2 relics of the chapter, and what I do like about this is the HQs and relics of the chapter mean that you pay 1 CP for the beginning of the game, and then these technically can last or benefit you the entire game if your characters stay alive. So I like to spend some CP very similar to this, 4 CP here for the 2 heroes and the 2 relics. So we start with company veterans, and we just have 1 sergeant and 1 veteran, both with storm shields and then chainswords. We then for HQ have the chapter master on the bike, rights of war to grant some obsec, storm shield chainsword, and then Angel's Exemplar to grab a 6-inch bubble of 5+ feel no pain against mortal wounds. We then have the Primaris Chaplain on the bike, who has Catechism of Fire, Canticle of Hate. He is the Master of Sanctity, so you can cast those 2 litanies per turn. And then he is also the hero of the chapter with the Wise Orator to give him the 2+ litany cast as well. And then we have a Primaris Librarian running 3 sanguinary powers. They are Unleash Rage, Blood Boil, and Wings of Sanguinius. He then is upgraded to with the Tomb of Malachor to give him that 1 power from the other discipline, and that is Null Zone. And we've talked about how strong it is to have this utility librarian in recent weeks. I'll link the video in the description above. So for troops, 1 squad of incursors, 1 squad of infiltrators, and 1 squad of intercessors. Just 1 upgrade there, which would be the chainsword on the intercessor sergeant, which is free. But I generally like this. I think infiltrators are very good at holding backfield objectives, incursors are very good at deploying aggressively. I mean, maybe I would have tried to have all Phobos troops, but I think this is generally pretty good. Moving into elites, we have the 5 Death Company with 3 chainswords and 2 power fists. So that is your Death Company designed to harass the enemy's backfield objective. That's the way I see it. We have a Primaris Apothecary who's been also upgraded to a Selfless Healer, and he is the Chief Apothecary. So he can't do any Blood Chalice shenanigans, but he can resurrect 1 model per turn and do 2 different heals per turn. We then have an 8-man Sanguinary Guard, a mix of swords and axes, 3 swords, 5 axes. I'm generally pretty happy with that. Some people love swords, some people love axes. They both are good. 5-man Sanguinary Guard with just axes. Then a 5-man Blade Guard Veteran Squad, all with storm shields, sergeant with a relic blade, the rest with lightning claws. And we did some math hammer recently and realised that lightning claws actually wound toughness 8 on a 55% chance for Blood Angels. So I can understand lightning claws on Vanguard veterans, giving that additional attack. It's -2, has a good chance to wound with the rerolls. I mean, it's very versatility based squad, especially with the storm shields. And then finally we move into fast attack. We have 3 attack bites with multi-meltas, 2 attack bites with multi-meltas, and plasma inceptors. And when we did some math hammer this week with the new storm speeder, if you haven't seen that video I can link it above as well, but the plasma inceptors and the attack with bikes with multi-meltas generally perform really well. They are very competitive options for their cost, so it makes sense to have 3 squads of them to round out this list nicely. So if we talk about the strategy of this list, we start with those 2 bikers. Very high toughness and wounds, very survivable, and generally designed to absorb a lot of damage. Not a lot of damage coming out from them, but they will last, and they both have auras, and they're both going to be generally very difficult for the opponent to bring down. We also have that 4 power utility librarian that can bring the Unleash Rage to either squads of Sanguinary Guard or Death Company, and then the Null Zone as well to just remove those key and vulnerable saves from your enemy. We have the small troop choices with the 2 Phobos, so we have the ability to guerrilla tactics and move our Phobos around, perform objectives. The Death Company for that backfield harass. I guess the main bulk of our force are those 13 Sanguinary Guard and the 5 Vanguard Veterans. The Vanguard Veterans obviously more tanky, but the Sanguinary Guard probably end up doing a bit more damage, but generally these guys can be utilised wherever you feel that you need them. We also have the Primaris Apothecary, who can, I guess, follow your other units across the battlefield. He will be hoofing it, but with 2 veterans, I guess the veterans can essentially be his bodyguards and protect him, or I mean they can work together to hold some sort of backfield objective or the middle objective, maybe with like the Vanguard Vets, keeping them alive, keeping them healthy, making them very difficult to shift off the middle. We then have the 5 attack bikes, and the reason that I love attack bikes is they're so cheap to put into strategic reserve, and that they're basically power level 3, so you can put a couple of them and like a company champion normally, but in this case we could reserve the whole squad of 3 for basically 1 CP, so we could reserve all the bikes and then bring in those multi-meltas. That would be 5 multi-meltas, so 10 shots tactically wherever we need them to deal with any sort of threat. Combine that with the fact that those Inceptors can drop down, and we do have the Chapter Master to grant full rerolls, and the Chapter Master's on his bike, so you know, you can drop the Inceptors within 6 of them, and you could generally clear out whatever you need to clear. So quite a good number of synergies in this list, and to be absolutely honest, it isn't miles away from the list that I've been working on throughout lockdown, so maybe we'll share that in the near future once I know it's competitive. So if we talk more about all the strengths, and then we'll go on to the weaknesses. So the strengths obviously are those survivable characters with auroras, with the OBSEC, and they can generally be wherever you need them to be because they're on bikes, and bikes with turbo boost can move 20 inches per turn. We also have that important Chief Librarian Psychic presence, giving us those key powers and the ability to deny 2 powers every turn. And we have some cheap but tactical fire support, and I guess what I mean by that is what we just talked about, those bikes being able to come in, or I mean they can start in the battlefield as well, and you know they can move their whole 12 inches, and because they're bikes they don't take any -1 to hit with those multi-meltas, and point for point I mean they're going to be very similar to your Eradicators, just a lot more mobile and actually just a tiny bit more survivable in that they do have the no minus to hit when they move 12 inches. We also have Skilled Riders. I guess like you could use that on your bike captains, or you could use it on the attack bikes to make them a little bit more difficult to bring down as well. It's essentially like a smoke screen. Once we do hit that turn 3, then we have a plentiful supply of attacks coming out, what with the Captain, the Primaris Chaplain, the 13 Sanguinary Guard, those 5 Death Company, the 5 Vanguard Veterans. I mean, there's a lot of attacks coming out there, and with the additional -1 and the extra attacks from Savage Echoes and Assault Doctrine, I think most enemies, if you make these charges, will start to really feel some hurt. I also think this list is very balanced. I always talk on my army lists, I like to have a bit of fire support, and I also like the psychic presence. So, I mean, we've got both of those things, and then finally, I mean, we also have managed to fit the Selfless Healer in there, and we know that we can bring back a Sanguinary Guard every turn, or we can top our powerful characters back up to full wounds because it's unlikely the enemy will kill them in 1 turn. So, really interesting. And then just finally, we just have that sort of like catch-all Soul Warden trait to basically 5+ against any mortal wounds. So if we are facing off against like Necrons or other lists that have a lot of Psychers and they can do a lot of mortal wounds, we have a sort of surefire way in there of deploying key units like the Sanguinary Guard or your Vanguard Veterans to have that shrug against the mortal wounds. Now, I do think there are a few weaknesses on this list, and I guess you can't build a list that is strong against everything and not have some weaknesses, right? Otherwise, there would be no point. But the weaknesses that I see is there's really no way in this list to counter fight first or fight last rules. You know, like you would need different psychic choices like Veil of Time, or you'd need some sort of Whirlwind to deal with that. This list may also have a little bit of problems against, up against like a lot of Dreadnoughts, or maybe Death Guard, anything that has -1 damage. I mean, it's going to render the Sanguinary Guard a lot less powerful. I mean, we do have those, and I guess the Plasma Inceptors as well, a lot less powerful. We do have some multi-meltas in there, but I mean, against a very Dreadnought heavy list, maybe run by Iron Hands or something, then there could be a couple of issues that you would have around that. And then finally, the only other thing that I think is maybe a weakness is there isn't really any way to reroll charges in this list. You know, you can normally sort that by taking like the Company Champion, or you can sort that by taking the Icon of the Angel. I mean, I guess the list has just run out of relics, so the only way you could really do that would be to give up something. But I guess that maybe just limits how much you can deep strike or how tactical you can be with your deep strike. However, the one thing to say is with those two biker captains, then, or the captain and the chaplain, you're probably less likely to deep strike a lot of the Sanguinary Guard and the Vanguard veterans in this list, I feel like. And that's okay as long as you're prepared for it and know how you're going to play the list. You can command reroll charges, right? But just some sort of way to reroll charges is usually pretty preferred by Blood Angels players. So before we do the final scoring, then congratulations to Josh for bringing this list. It's a very strong list, it's very well rounded, I generally really like it. When we've scored it, it's actually scored one of the highest lists that I've actually ever reviewed. So here we go then, and on objective holding we've said it's 9.5, we obviously have 2 Phobos units and we have Rites of War, so I mean there's a lot of mobility around our troop choices. We also have those company veterans that can help with holding backfield objectives. So yeah, I mean 9.5. I mean the only way maybe it could have got a 10 is if we'd gone for all 3 Phobos, but I think this is fine. As mentioned, the list may have some issues clearing screens, right? We have those 3 Inceptors that can arrive and can clear some screens, and I mean we have those multi-meltas that I guess we could use to clear screens, and the Sanguinary Guard bolters, but you know, that's a problem that sometimes we feel, or that is a problem playing as Blood Angels. And so we've said for like anti-infantry 8.5 out of 10. This could have maybe pushed to a 9. It's very close. It might not have problems, but against some armies there may be some issues. So I guess, but overall still strong against anti-infantry and hordes. I feel like against vehicles, I would say like it's a 9.5. The only issue that we're going to really have is then if we ever run into like a heavy dreadnought list. I think so many axes and swords, combine that up with the ability to remove invulnerable saves, exploding 6s, and then those 10 fast moving multi-melta shots. I generally think that vehicles and monsters are going to have problems against this, so yeah, we've said 9.5 out of 10. For mobility, we've given it a solid 9 out of 10. I mean, just about everything has a jump pack, and I mean except maybe the bikes, right, and their troops, so everything is mobile except the veterans and the apothecary, but that isn't going to be an issue. I think that the apothecary will be designed to either hold the middle, and then you can always have a unit jump back to the middle if you feel like the unit's very under strength, needs some healing, needs a revive. You know, quite often I might even basically escape from close combat to go join apothecary. Remember, you do heal at the end of the movement phase, so I think it gives you very good options. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for mobility. For specialization, usually if a list has too much focus, then we mark it with a down score for specialization, but I think this list kind of covers a wide different approach for fighting many different armies. It plays to all the Blood Angel strength, but it also has that little bit of key fire support if it is needed, and against some armies it can potentially be needed. I personally would have liked to seen a relic weapon on one of the 2 captains, be it the Benediction of Fury on that chaplain, or the Teeth of Terror, or something like the Hammer of Baal on the chapter master. I mean, I think that those really elevate those characters to the next level in terms of raw damage, but I mean, if the strategy is making sure they're surviving and keeping all your units healthy to do the damage across the board, then I can totally get on board with that. So 9.5 out of 10 for specialization. So yeah, this list scores a grand total of 46 out of 50. As I said, it's probably going to be impossible to score much higher than this, maybe a point or something, because you can never make the perfect list. If we could, then everyone would make a perfect list every time. So, I mean, if it was up to me, and I guess maybe in my list you'll see I would do some minor tweaks, and like my minor tweaks, they're so minor, and I don't, you know, they might add some strength somewhere, but they might remove some strength elsewhere. And I guess my minor tweaks would be adding that second squad of incursors, potentially adding some sort of way to have the fight last or fight first rule, and I mean that's really about it. As I said, like I have a list that's not a million miles from this, but this list is obviously a tournament winning list, and it's generally very strong and it's well thought out. So hopefully the diagram you can see here looks a bit better this week. It's easier to see the scores out of 10. So thanks very much for watching. Please leave me a video comment down below, and if you did get value out of this, then please hit that like button. I always answer every comment on this channel, so you can definitely hit me up with any Blood Angels related questions you have, or we can generally just talk tactics like we do every week. So I'd like to also just say thank you to one of my members of my community, Echo Mirage on YouTube. And what you'll be seeing in the next month or so is quite a big giveaway on this channel. I mean, I've been wanting to do a giveaway for a while, so a community member has helped me make this possible. So keep your eyes peeled. We are going to have some sort of large giveaway where we've ordered a bunch of the new pre-order stuff, and wherever you are in the world, we'll get it posted out to you. So keep an eye out for that. And obviously we'll be back on Friday for a tactics video. Thanks very much for watching. I hope to see you all soon. By the blood are we made, brothers. Peace.